first line defense. It's that important to this community because it is also a responsible solution, right? That buys us precious time to find even more long-term solutions. But for now, it is critically important that we protect our community, we protect our taxpayers. We make certain our homeowners are not in a floodplain. We make certain our taxpayers are able to get insurance. All of those things that are so critically important to a vibrant community is what we've accomplished by making this extremely easy now reality. And it was certainly not an easy path, right? I think you'll all nod when you hear that. But when you have professionalism, when you have generosity, when you have people who are committed, you get things done. And we're so fortunate to have all three of those things here today. Mr. Wiener, Councilmember Wiener, you and your leadership with the Infrastructure Committee, we couldn't be more fortunate. This is your moment, right? To have you and your skill set and your talent and your commitment here in our community right now. We couldn't be, in your wisdom, I need to say too, because how hard was it going to Eagle and getting their trust, right? Pat, you're the other one, Patrick. Right moment, right time. What would we do without you and OHM? It was so much more complicated than I think people realize. Because we did need to gain the trust of Eagle and the like and all of our partners. So to not only protect those pointers, but to also protect our neighbors from catastrophic, this is not hyperbole, right? Catastrophic flooding that impacts our health and safety as a community. We've accomplished. So thank you, Patrick, for being an important part of that team. Nick, Mr. Seisen, Henry Seisen, you, and I see we have Director Jim. Get over here.
I'll get over here. Get over here.
He's going to come up with me right
was critically important. So as were our taxpayers, what would we do without our residents empowering us there? And certainly the City Council who navigated this pathway, and without question, the foundation. Mr. Henry, we're going to give you a moment to speak to, but in the kind of partnership that we are is truly testimony to the quality of this community. And then without a doubt, the Cotton family. You all just endured no matter what. You're at our side no matter what. You've got a North Star, you've got a focus, you've got a rudder, and we all benefit because of that. I don't think there's any community that can speak to the level of support that we get no matter what piece of these things affect. Sean, it gets me with you. I bow to you. Honestly, and you too. And
Don't put that in the paper.
well, you know what else? Where's Brad? Block his ears. You know, it came to mind to me this morning. I mean, this is a pipe, and you did give us peace of mind, right? So is it sort of a peace pipe? It's our peace of mind pipe. If you print that, don't forget that part. But truly, we can laugh. But there's really aren't words. I don't know how to show you how much. And really appreciate it. When I say it wasn't easy, there's a whole other level of so thank you for being a partner and helping us to make sure that we take transformational steps, because that's really what this is transformational. And I thank you, residents thank you, all of our leadership team thank you for the best and partnership with you. And I know Ms. Woods, has some things to say too. I'm proud to welcome my wonderful teammate here, who looks amazing today.
I'm not going to wear a tie for this, right?
You did say, weren't you in, solving some broken motor?
I don't want to talk about that. I have a long morning. So, first off, well, thank you all for being here. And it's appropriate that we're here in Patterson Park, not only because we're standing over the project, but Patterson is a perfect example of the amenities that the philanthropy has given back to the community that really defines what we are. Now, I think that what we're talking about today, though, is singularly unique to all those other projects. So to set the stage, 2021, obviously we had historic storms ravaged southeastern Michigan. Grosse Pointe Park by itself saw over $80 million in damage. So because of it, Grosse Pointe Park, the city reoriented and we really started taking infrastructure seriously. Thank you to the residents for passing the water sewer millage so we could put together a concerted, multifaceted, multi-year plan to build out the infrastructure. But the conversation that we had was, in the event of that flooding, was there a singular project that would really have helped mitigate it? What could we do that would have the most bang for the buck to protect residents? So that's where the conversation started about the extreme emergency relief valve. It was actually originally conceived by former city manager Craniac, and we started kind of working through it. And what we have here is we're a separated system. So we have a storm sewer pumping station here. So when it rains, the water that's on the streets gets pumped out and discharged. Then we have our sanitary system. The problem is we control our storm system, but our sanitary system, it gets basically transmitted to the Detroit River Interceptor, giant pump, probably a giant pipe under Jefferson, and it goes down to Great Lakes Waterworks discharge. Now we're surrounded by combined systems, and so in the event of that flooding, what basically happened, Great Lakes water went down. The communities around us kept adding water in, and we geographically sit in a trough. So water's going to go where there's the least resistance, basements start to flood. So there was nothing really that we could do about it. The idea of the extreme emergency relief valve is what if we could bleed off some of that pressure? It's what's happening in communities up and down the waterways when they can't handle their water, they discharge out. But unlike them, this project, we have really tight parameters. We work with EGLE, we have specific standard operating procedures of when we can utilize it. We actually have flow monitoring, we can track it, we log it. We're actually intermingling it with stormwater, so we're diluting it. Again, this is a controlled system. And the other thing to consider about it is not only is there the damage to homes and property, but there's the environmental impact of not having it. This is the argument that we make in the state. Because you all remember there was about 220 dump trucks in garbage, diesel trucks hauling it off. Not only that, when people's basements were flooding, a lot of the homes, stormwater was basically getting into the basements, but then it intermingles with all this stuff down there, it gets really contaminated. Most homes, they were sump pumping it out, so they're pumping that sanitary water into the streets, it's coating the streets, so again, it was a massive environmental catastrophe, whereas here, we control it, we know what's going out, we log it, we track it, as opposed to what happened there. So that's what the EERV is, but so back to actually making it happen. It's really daunting when you go into a project when from day one, you're told point blank to your face, this cannot happen. Like our first conversations with Eagle said, why are you doing this? If it's never gonna happen, we're not gonna let it happen. It's jarring. But the thing that really helped motivate us, kept us going, was the outreach from the community, specifically the philanthropic community. All of you kept asking, what can we do for the city? How can we help it happen? Because amenities are wonderful, but if you don't feel safe in your home, what's the point? You need to have security. So constantly had that outreach, and it really culminated with Sherry and the Rose Point Park Foundation. You were kind enough to host that meeting where we presented to the foundation what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. And y'all were kind enough to say, okay, so what do we need to do to help make this come about? So the first thing was we identified the scope. It was kind of the biggest lead time engineering component. At a year and a half lead time, the city was not in a position to purchase it. So the foundation made that happen. I can't overstate how much that sped up the entire process, but what most of you don't realize, not only did it help with the budget and speed up the project, but it actually was a huge symbol to Eagle, to the state, coupled with the water sewer millage, that we're taking this seriously, that this isn't just some one and done. So then the next aspect to it was obviously Eagle had a lot of demands to make this happen. I don't know if everyone understands how unique, no city has gotten one of these districts. It doesn't normally exist. So we had to jump through a lot of hoops, build out the scope of the project. But the other thing that motivated us too is we never wanted this to be just a symbol. Like, we want a functional device, something that actually will help. So the engineer that went into it, like, it needs to work and needs to work well. No one's saying it solves every issue, but this thing will have a huge impact if we're ever in that circumstance. The problem being that when you expand the scope of a project and we went out to bidding, it ended up coming in well over budget, $900,000 more than we expected. Now, we were always serious about it happening, but that was going to put a huge delay and damper on things. Now, on a personal note, I already said that how much it meant to us that everybody was reaching out and help us. Me personally, Sherry, Sean, you guys were amazing. You were always asking how cared about how much this would have an impact on the residents, on the park, and you always wanted to know what can you do. And when it came about that we were going to have this huge hurdle, you guys unsolicited reached out and said that you would help us. So that's why we're dedicating this plaque today, but this has been in place and functional for more than a year. And that's the only reason why. If not for you, it would have been a massive delay, would have thrown off all of our other projects, but you guys made this happen. So back to the aspect of philanthropy, one thing that really affects me in all of this, you know, when you think philanthropy, obviously you think of the parks, the dog park, you theater, you drive by every day, you can see what did I contribute to. I got to see the kids on the playscape. Juxtapose that with what we've got here. Most of you never even saw this really going into the ground. You're certainly never going to see it again. The mechanics are all buried. And ironically, the nature of this project is it exists to give safety and security to residents, right? It exists for peace of mind. So the irony of this project is, if it works as intended, it's effectively forgotten. That's what, in my mind, makes this such an altruistic gift. It's so unique because, again, it exists for the security, and then no one's going to talk about it again, hopefully. So that's why, putting a plaque up, having us here, acknowledging what you guys did, it's the least we can do for something that's so significant, something so unique. Really, it affects me. I'm very impressed and grateful and thankful. The community as a whole really is appreciative for everything you guys have done for us. So thank you. I mean that. Thank you. So again, if you all want to say, Sherry, you want to say anything?
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere in my life, and this is my home. And so I want to keep it good. I want to keep it great. And so many of my friends had PTSD from the floods, and they flooded it more than once. And we didn't talk about the rats that came out because of all the crap in the street. So it was very unhealthy. And so, yes, I'm just grateful that we have the means to be able to help this. And yeah, probably one of the most important things I've done.
I had to leave tennis a little early this morning. I told my buddies I was going to a dedication of a sewer valve. Looked at me like I was crazy, but as someone that pumped out my basement and then my mom's basement down the street in Miracle Bay, I realized this may be the most significant project. The foundation's ever been involved in. And as Max has said, we focus on focus every but it will give peace of mind to people, and it's trying to spread it out there. And it should support our property value, so it's a very important project. I'd like to thank the Generati Stream generosity of the Cotton family. I read an article about the project from a few years ago, and they've been extremely generous. Max and Nick, I know, and others put a lot of time into this, and it wasn't always, as someone that probably was a little impatient and didn't really understand what was going on.
It was good, fortunately.
Yeah, it was, it was good, good to finally get it done. So, and as Max said, it's ironic. We it's one of the most important projects, but again, we hope that we never need it. And also, I hope that, as actually so said, hope that we don't talk about it again for a long, long time. So, thanks again.
So, Max said it earlier, and the first I want to thank Dale Craniac for this, because I started in 2016 in Grosse Pointe Park, and I went through the first flood, and I've been through 3 floods now in my time there. And as Sherry said, there's times that it is very stressful. There's, for the residents and city staff, I mean, we are on the front lines, hearing those calls, hearing the voices of all residents. And Dale and I, after that 2016 storm, we talked about this project, came up with a name, how do we get this done? And then without the help of OHM advisors, as well as Tom Jenny, we got to work on how do we get this done, looking for funding opportunities, and from the very start, as Max said, Eagle said no. I said, it's happening. We're not going to stop. And we had to build trust with them. They looked at the Grosse Pointe Park of old of you know what, you're just like the Fox Creek, you're just going to keep dumping into there. No, we're smarter than that. We are more efficient than that. And this isn't just a Grosse Pointe Park conversation. This is a regional conversation. And that is what mattered so much, especially because not only Grosse Pointe Park, but it was all the other communities that were devastated by these floods. And so the push by this team here, as well as Max, helped tremendously to get Eagle to understand that this was such an important project for not only our residents, the property values, but helping our neighbors in Detroit. And we had to go over some hills there too, building trust with the communities of Detroit, with the local, congressional, and we even had, people in Detroit City Council that were against this. I mean, we had a lot of battles to go through. And without this team here, without the support of City Council members, Mayor Hodges, the Cotton family, the foundation, this could never have happened. And I am so blessed and appreciative that we were able to work all together to work on a sewer project that typically does not have philanthropic help. You like to do the more fun projects. So you guys, I am lost for words. I really am, even to this day, how much this means to me, the city, our residents, and it's what makes this job and managing the city so amazing. So I just can't thank you enough for it. And hopefully never have to. Tom, a few words?
Just really quick, just thank everyone for your ongoing support for residents of Grosse Pointe Park. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And I'll be brief, and it helps having engineer and council kind of go through the nuts and bolts of how this works. So I can be very brief. In talking about trust building with Eagle, one of the things that we would say routinely through our conversations was that we're not done. And what this, especially with the gifts of the philanthropy, allows us to do is really move this forward quickly and get to the other work that needs to be done. The system is old, as we know. We had discussions at council last night about the needs for the infrastructure, and that just allows us to move and start attacking those quicker, both on water and sewer. So we're very appreciative of all the support through this project. And again, I'll just reiterate, we hope we never have to use it, but it's here if we do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, cover that then.
Yeah. I think it's historic.
Cotton's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, big guys.
All right, so Tom, just rip off the tape, or okay.
That one,
Okay. Okay. We want to do a 3, 2, 1? Sure. All right. 3, 2, 1. So I'll read it off. This plaque commemorates the installation of the extreme emergency relief valve completed on July 9th, 2024. This project exemplifies what has always made Grosse Pointe Park a wonderful place to live. It represents a unique public-private partnership to strengthen city infrastructure, protecting our residents' homes and well-being. This project was made possible through the engagement and philanthropy of Sherry, Sean, and Nancy Cotton, the Grosse Pointe Park infrastructure millage passed by residents, and the Grosse Pointe Park Foundation. This project would also not be possible if not for the assistance of the Great Lakes Water Authority, OHM Advisors, and Eagle. Everyone working together to protect the city puts a beautiful symbol of recognition to highlight the tremendous work and generosity that goes unseen beneath our feet.
Wow, that's really beautiful. Who wrote that? Did